Hello, YouTube. This is Detroit Allycat. Welcome back to my channel. If you're a first time person watching my channel, think about subscribing, sticking around. I talk about all the strange and unusual things, missing people, true crime, spooky stories, hauntings, whatever you could possibly think of. And I would love it if you watched my video and told me what you thought. So without further ado, let's get spooky. Okay, today we're going to talk about something. Sorry. Today we're going to talk about something that I've been thinking about for a while. It's a missing person case of a 16-year-old girl. I believe she would be 23 right now. It never sat well with me, and it's really important to talk about because she's still missing, and also there are some things in the case that, I feel like everybody needs to know about because I've heard so many people tell me that this is not possible, but it is. So let's get right into it. We are going to talk about Karlie Guse. She's got one of them little apostrophes at the end, so I hope I'm saying her name right. This is a pretty famous case. I've seen it all over. It has slowed down recently, and that makes me sad. I feel like I just wish she would have been found by now. It's been 7 years and I haven't heard anything, and there's so many theories, but I think the most important part about Karlie Guse is getting the information out there because she's still out there somewhere. So Karlie is in California. I like to cover a lot of cases that are in Michigan, but I wanna cover this one because it's super, super important. So, Karlie went missing October 13th, 2018. Her date of birth was May 13, 2002. That is crazy because that is, 1 day before my son's birthday. Um, Literally same month and year. I did not realize that until this very moment. Okay, anyway. So, Karlie lived in a town called Tonopah, Tonopah, Tonopah. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. I always say all the cities wrong, no matter how much I research it. Tonopah, California. If that is wrong, feel free to correct me. The interesting thing about Tonopah, California is it's super small. I saw a map of it. It's just like this tiny little town. It's very far away from everything. It's also a mining town, so there's so many mining shafts, and that's not always the greatest thing when you have missing people because I've been told that people can fall down mining shafts, people can be unalived and thrown down in mining shafts, and there's no way that they could possibly ever find you because apparently there's pockets of carbon monoxide and they blow up and they're dangerous. So mining towns, bad news, bad news. There's a bunch of missing people that they suspect have been thrown down a mining shaft. But that's just side note. Okay. So, let's talk about what happened to Karlie. So it was October 12th and 2018, and Karlie tells her stepmother that she wants to go to a football game. Now, let's do a little bit of talking about this family. I'm not going to go too in depth. I think that hitting the family up and digging deep in their lives, it's necessary, especially when you're doing investigation work, but it's also sometimes really awful, especially if these people are just victims or they're grieving someone and they had nothing to do with it, which I don't know if they do or they don't, but Karlie's family is a little interesting. She's got a stepmom, she's got a dad, she's got 2 younger siblings, she's got an older sibling. There's been a lot of weird stuff that's happened in the last couple years. Obviously, they're going through stuff. Karlie's been missing for 7 years, so I can't even imagine the stress that's on that family, but there's a lot of there's been domestic violence, like, police calls from the house. The older brother's been in trouble, but, I mean, like, they've gone through something really traumatic, so I can't really say, like, this is an established pattern. I just wanted to say that, and then also, Karlie's biological mother, there's been some accusations that her stepmom and her dad had something to do with Karlie's disappearance. I don't know how that could just, you know, I mean, that's the biological mom and the stepmom, and sometimes there's always tension between that. But we'll get into that more. So Karlie tells her stepmom, like, I'm gonna head off to this football game. It's October 12th, 2018. And then instead of going to a football game, she goes to a house party with her friend and her boyfriend. And her boyfriend's name was Donald Arrowwood the Third. I feel really bad for Donald Arrowwood. He's been completely cleared of anything, and he seems like a genuinely nice person, and I think that this whole situation has probably traumatized him, so please don't take this information to go find him and bother this young man who's probably been through a lot. But I'm just telling you because it's important to know. So she goes to house party with her boyfriend, Donald Arrowwood the third, and they decide that they're gonna smoke a bunch of pot, which is pretty typical for teenagers to do. Now, here's where everybody does not believe me or disagree with me. People say that you cannot get addicted to marijuana, or you can't get psychosis from marijuana, or marijuana, you can't overdose from marijuana, or if your pet consumes marijuana, your pet will be fine. These are all lies. Like, the marijuana in 2025 is not the same marijuana from 1962. Like, now we have, like, all these different strands, like sativa, indica, we've got dabs, we've got pens, we've got chemically engineered stuff that I don't even think is really marijuana. This stuff is hardcore. Like, I used to smoke pot when I was a teenager, and, like, the stuff that they have going around right now, woo! I won't play with that because it's it's a lot, you know? And something that I just wanna put out there, you can overdose on this stuff. Like, they're chemically engineering it. It's not just like a plant anymore. And I know a lot of people don't agree with me, but I just want to say if your animal ingests marijuana, like your dog, and I know this because this actually happened to me, unfortunately, your dog can actually die from eating marijuana, and everyone thinks it's really funny, and I see tons of videos, and it's not. It's horrible. They, like, lose their control of their bladder and their bowels, and they drool. Like, my dog accidentally we had friends over, and somebody left, like, a roach outside, which is, like, a tiny little cigarette butt of marijuana, and she ate it, and because she eats everything. And, for, like, 3 days. She was so sick, and we were so scared, and we had to take her to the vet, and I did so much research, and it turns out that it's toxic for dogs. I don't know about, like, the rest of the animal kingdom, but, like, that's just something to know because I feel like people think that that's a joke, and it's not. It's not a joke. Like, your dog can get really sick. And then also, people say, "Well, oh, you can't smoke too much marijuana." So there's actually something called marijuana psychosis, and this is real, and it's actually happened to one of my friends. They smoked a bunch of pot, and, the mind is a very elusive thing. Like, I don't think that anybody really knows everything it can do and all the things that can happen. And, like, they're still figuring out things. And psychosis or possibly, mental illness that could be in your family that can be brought on by drug use. And now that the marijuana that they have out there is so super strong, maybe you have this possibility that you could have, like, a psychosis episode, but you haven't, but then you smoke a bunch of pot and then it pushes it out. Or you have, like, trauma that you've repressed and, like, you smoke a bunch of pot and, like I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a what are those, a chemist or whatever. I'm just saying I've seen plenty of people who have smoked too much pot end up having psychosis. And and recently I just heard a story from one of my friends who smoked a ton of pot, a ton of pot. Like the girl could smoke like 10 joints in a sitting, and I would just be like, "Whoa, like, that's a lot." So, she decided that she wanted to stop smoking pot, and then she told me she had withdrawals. Now, I'm not saying that that's I mean, I don't she has no reason to lie. She has no reason to lie. Her body adapted to that much pot, and then now she's having withdrawals. I think that the pot that is out there, THC is very, very strong, and, you should be careful messing with it. So, anyway, so Karlie smokes a bunch of pot with her friends, they call it a sesh or something like that. I know a bunch of people are laughing at me right now for even saying that. But she has this sesh and she starts, like, getting panicky, and she starts getting frantic, and she says that the music is, like, freaking her out, and so her boyfriend's like, "Okay, Karlie, let's go home. Let me take you home." She's like, "Okay." So they get in the car, then she starts tripping out on him, and he's like, "Well, what can I do to help you?" And she starts screaming and yelling and pushing him, and she's, like, scared of him. She, gets out of the car and she starts running down the street, and he starts running after her, and she doesn't wanna be around him, so she ends up calling her stepmom, and she's, like, telling her stepmom, like, "Hey, can you come get me?" And so her stepmom comes and gets her, picks her up, and takes her home. Now this is where it gets a little bit crazy. Um, Carly's super high. There's a chance that whatever she smoked could have been laced with something, but she's not acting normal. She's talking about how she's having demonic thoughts and that she's gonna die. And I guess she's really panicked and she's freaking out. And so the stepmom lays her down in the bed and tells her she's gonna go make her something to eat, which is a good idea. And she makes her a salad. I don't know why she made her a salad. I just think that's weird. Someone's, like, super high and you're gonna make them like, a salad. So, she gives the salad to Karlie, and Carlie's talking about, like, this is the devil's lettuce, and she's, like, spitting it out. So this girl is, like, going through something. She is acting like it sounded like psychosis to me. I'm once again not a psychologist, doctor, anybody that knows what I'm talking about. I'm just saying she's talking about the devil's lettuce and that, she's having demonic thoughts. That doesn't sound like the typical, like, marijuana sesh to me. Doesn't sound like it's ending the way it's supposed to be. And so at this point, she's laying Karlie down in the bed. Now, I hate doing this, but I'm going to because I hate coming after the parents. But here it just this is weird. So the stepmother decides while Carly's like tripping out that the best thing to do is to start recording Karlie. Um I've never recorded my daughter without her knowledge, and nor would I do that, especially when she is acting like she's going through a psychotic break, or she's too high, or she's too drunk, or she's in some kind of situation where she can't consent to being recorded. I understand that it's like a parent and a child, but like it's still weird. Like my child's acting like they're having a psychotic break, I'm gonna take out a recorder and record them. That would never occur to me, not in a million years, not in a million years. But so that's what the stepmom does. She decides to record Karlie. And on the recording, you can actually hear Karlie say, "Are you gonna kill me?" Karlie's already saying a ton of weird stuff. So did she mean anything by that? I don't know. I don't know. They could have just been like, how she said she was eating the devil's lettuce. But also, something that really stuck out to me was Karlie started pleading for her stepmother to take her to the hospital. And I do not understand why that woman did not do that, especially if she's telling her that she's having demonic thoughts and eating the devil's lettuce and she said a couple times, she's like, "I'm gonna die." Like, I don't know. When somebody tells me they think they're gonna die, I would rather take you to the hospital and have a doctor tell me that they're not gonna die than just sit there and be like, "Oh, it's totally fine." Because what if it's not fine? But she didn't take her to the hospital. She let her lay there, and instead of taking her to the hospital, like, she recorded her. And, yeah, I think that's strange. I do. And I feel bad because I don't know if she had necessarily anything to do with her disappearance, but, like, I just do think that that was some bad decision making that night. And, I'm sure if this woman is completely innocent, she's feeling it every single day of her life that instead of taking her stepdaughter to the hospital, she let her lay in a bed. But anyway, um, so Carly's in the bed. She eventually goes to sleep. I guess the stepmom was laying in the bed with her, but at a certain point, she gets up and she goes into her room. And then she says when she gets up to go check on Karlie in the morning that she's gone. She can't find her anywhere. Now, there's some more weird things happen. So the police actually get called by the biological father. I want to make sure you guys have his name. I feel like it's Zach. It is Zach. Isn't it Zach? I know it's in here. Yeah, it's Zachary. Zachary Guse calls the police. So the police come and they're talking to the stepmom and the dad. And now here's the weird thing. The stepmom says that she had to get the kids ready for school or something like that. It was a Saturday. It was a Saturday. And then I think before they called the police, they took the kids to a relative's in the area or a friend's or something like that, the younger kids that they have. Why did they do that? Like, how did they know that Karlie was, like, that missing? Like, I don't know. Like, I just, like, wouldn't you I don't know. It just that stuck out to me too, and once again, I just have to say I'm really sorry for this family and the things that they're going through, and I hate, like, even bringing these things up, but they're questions, and I'm not the only one who has these questions. Right down the road, around the corner, there's something called Highway 6, and 2 different people say they seen Karlie. One person said they saw her holding, like, a piece of paper, another person said they saw her frantically walking. These were the last 2 times that anybody said that they saw Karlie. It cannot be proved that this was actually Karlie, but it's a very small town, and the likelihood that it was her is probably pretty high, but at the same time, it's not definitive. At this point, everyone's looking for Karlie. They have, like, helicopters, they do the whole, like, mounted looking for people, horses, everything, and this goes on and on and on. And then, Karlie's stepmom decides to go on Facebook and make frantic live posts. And you know what? I can't say that I wouldn't do this because I would be trying to look for my child everywhere and anywhere I possibly can. But the amount of times that she went on Facebook and went live talking about Karlie's disappearance, it was a little excessive and she got a lot of criticism for it and it looked a little concerning, suspicious, if you will. But who's to say how you're going to act when that kind of thing's happening? They didn't find Karlie, and then eventually they went on the Dr. Phil show, and I have my thoughts on Dr. Phil. I like watching his shows, but I just feel like he really kinda baits people to act a certain way, and I don't know if he necessarily has their best interests at heart. I feel like he's all about, like, views, and I mean, of course, he's, like, a millionaire, right? Billionaire, probably. But Karlie's biological mother goes on to the Dr. Phil show. Her name is Lindsay Barely, so she goes on the Dr. Phil show, and she basically says that she feels that the stepmother, Melissa, and the father, Zachary, were responsible for Karlie's disappearance. And she brings up some very, like, real concerns, like, "Why did you tape record my daughter? Why didn't you take her to the hospital? Like, why did you say that the kids had to go to school? Why did you take the kids to a friend's house before you called the police?" Like, all these are, like, straight up real questions, and, people make really stupid mistakes when they're panicked, but being those yeah, those are rough mistakes, and, I think that the biological mother has her own issues that Karlie wasn't living with her for some reason. I think that there was some, like, situation where she couldn't take care of Karlie or whatever. Um, it's a really sad, horrible situation because I guess she wanted Karlie to come move in with her. I mean, I think that's speculation, but that's what she said on the Dr. Phil show. There was a lot of arguing and bickering. Dr. Phil ended up listening to the recording that Melissa made of Karlie and said that he thought that it sounded like Karlie was going through psychosis and asked, like, why didn't you take Karlie to the hospital? And Melissa, the stepmom, just starts crying and she's like, I should have. And I don't know, it just rubbed me wrong. Like, it did. I don't know, there was something about it. I don't think that she necessarily had something to do with it, but I think that there is more to the story. And with the marijuana, do I think it was laced, or do I think that it was just marijuana that made her have a psychosis? I don't know. I think that she did have a psychosis. I think she had a mental break that night, and I think things got really out of control, and I think that she should have been taken to a hospital. Many people have mental emergencies, or I think it's called something else, but situations where they need to go to the hospital and be medicated and talk to psychologists, and mental health is a very serious thing. You never know when things are gonna fall apart, and I think that Karlie had a crisis that night in her head, and, instead of going to the hospital, she was left alone, and that was, not the right choice. So Karlie is still missing to this day. They've had a couple people come out and try to find, Karlie, this guy, he's doing, like, scientific experiments with, like, he has a dog that can track down excrements if you know, waste that comes out of an animal's body. And apparently, he said he found waste that came out of coyote's body, or an animal's body, and that he couldn't definitively prove that it was Karlie. And he's trying to get more money to make this science better and raise money. I just wanted to, like, talk about it, bring it to your attention. I feel like this girl is out there somewhere, breathing or not, and I think that keeping her name alive in the media is a very good thing, and I just think that there's a lot of things in this case that should be talked about, and things that people don't necessarily agree on. Like, you can agree with me if you want to about, pot and animals ingesting it, or you can't overdose from smoking too much pot, or you can't have, like, withdrawals. That's stuff that can be debated. I personally think that, you can have withdrawals, and I do think that the marijuana that they make now is very dangerous if not consumed properly. And I think that people don't realize that because they think that, like, the pot that they have is, like, the same pot from, like, hippie land in 1960s, and that's not true. Like, drugs are different. fentanyl and flocka and bath salts and all this stuff. Like, take a moment to go cruise YouTube and find out what people are doing in those little drug areas and watch them roll around on the ground. This stuff is like so strong, so strong. And who knows what Karlie got that night. I just know that she's still missing, and I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to bring it up to your attention. If you agree with me about the marijuana or not, she's still missing. Um, I do feel very bad for the family. They have all been cleared, and they are still currently looking for Karlie. So I'm gonna put her picture up. If you live in this area, um, let's see it one more time. Let's see if I can butcher it one more time. Tonopah. We all know that it's not called Tonopah, that it's definitely called something else, but Tonopah, California, and I'm just gonna go ahead and put up the FBI picture for you so you have the information, and if you see somebody that looks like this, please let them know, and hopefully one day we will have answers about Karlie Guse because losing a child or a young person like that is absolutely horrible. So that's all I have for you. I would love if you thought about subscribing, liking, leaving some kind of a message for me, telling me what you think, even if you think that like I could have did better. Gets kind of lonely. No little messages. Anyway, it was so nice to have you listen to this story. I hope Karlie's story gets out there a little bit more because of my tiny itty bitty YouTube channel. And I hope you have an amazing week. Thank you again for coming to my channel. As always, stay spook. No, no, no. I said it wrong. As always, stay safe and stay spooky. Bye.